I recently got my hands on a pretty interesting mouse. This is the Rapoo VT7 MAX Gen 2, which features some incredible specs for a budget mouse. Rapoo was generously enough to send this out for me to review, so let's get into it. The first thing we had to do was unbox our gaming mouse. Upon opening the box, you should be greeted with the mouse itself. Under that is the wireless receiver, a USB Type-C cable, the manual, and a textured grip to put on your mouse if you don't like the finish. Now that we get the mouse unboxed, let's talk a little bit more about it. The entire mouse is covered in a rubberized texture, which I actually like quite a bit. However, I did notice that it loves to pick up smudge marks from your hands. The mouse itself features two side buttons, which are programmable, a scroll wheel with a tire texture, a DPI buttons in the center of the mouse, and on the back you have the free glide pads, an on and off switch, a programmable button to change your different settings, and this cool little tab that flips up when you push it down. This is where you can store your wireless receiver or how you connect it to their wireless charger. Then on the front you have your USB Type-C port. And the biggest surprise about this mouse is it only weighs 53 grams. This is considered an ultralight mouse, and I have to say it's probably the lightest mouse I have ever used. On top of that, they advertise up to 750 hours of battery life out of a 800 milliamp lithium ion battery, which is quite insane. This mouse also features a true 8K polling rate, 120 million click optical switches, and a 30K independent XY DPI sensor, which is pretty neat. And you could get all of these features for a whopping $55, which is pretty insane for a budget mouse, especially for an ultralight. On top of that, there's also software that comes along with this mouse, literally called the Hub. You could either download it or use it for your browser. This is where you can adjust your DPI settings, program your buttons, set up macros, which this has a pretty in-depth macro system, use the onboard memory, switching between a bunch of different profiles, changing your different polling rates, which also affects your battery life and more. The software offers a lot of features for the mouse, which is pretty unique for something at this price point. Now, since we got our mouse completely set up, how does it feel while gaming? I mean, that's what we're here for. This is a gaming mouse. My first impressions of this mouse were it was pretty good. I jumped into some CS2 and started practicing my aim, trying to get used to how the mouse feels. While doing that, I noticed that there was some sort of artificial smoothing happening with the mouse. I went back into the hub to try to figure out what was going on. And then I realized that there's a mouse smoothing setting that was enabled, which I turned off. This would be completely fine for most people, but I like competitive games, so I like my mouse to be at peak performance at all times, just like my computer. After that, my gaming experience was really good. I felt like this mouse was very accurate and consistent the whole time. Had no issues of stuttering or having some sort of lost precision. Definitely running a higher pull rate is better. You have a more precise of a shot. The one thing I did have to get used to is how light this mouse is. I've never used an ultralight mouse before, so it was a bit of a learning curve for me, overshooting, throwing my mouse off my desk, forgetting that I'm even holding a mouse. It's just that light. I'm used to a lot heavier mice, so this was a big learning curve. But the one downside of making such a light mouse is that it feels pretty hollow. However, the mouse build quality is really good. I didn't notice any sort of creaking that you would normally hear from a mouse in this price point. The overall build quality is pretty solid, and it's hard to tell that this is even a cheap mouse. On the other hand, the mouse buttons feel really good. I had no weird input issues or anything like that. My entire experience using this mouse so far has been pretty fantastic. The side buttons feel great. The scroll wheel could be tweaked a little bit. I think it's a bit slow, but outside of that, it's been a great gaming mouse. Been able to get plenty of kills in Arc Raiders. Plus, the nice software experience that you normally wouldn't find on a cheap mouse like this has been fantastic. The overall feel of the mouse has been very good. I tried it across multiple different games from competitive to more laid back shooters and RTSs, and I really like how this mouse feels. The optical sensor is great. I haven't noticed any sort of stuttering or input issues due to the sensor, and the 2.4 GHz receiver seems to work very well in the wireless mode. I would personally always use it wireless. I think having it plugged in would defeat the whole purpose of having such a light mouse. If it's meant to be wireless, it's going to be wireless, but that's just me. Some people like having it plugged in. I don't play enough competitive games for that to actually matter, so it works great for my situations. The only issue I came across was updating it. For some reason, the first couple times I tried updating the receiver and the mouse, it failed on me, which I thought was a bit weird, but eventually it did update. Rapoo is providing plenty of updates to these mice, so hopefully if there's any issues, they will be on top and fixing it. So at the end of the day, what really makes this mouse stand out is how light it is, how long the battery life is, and how cheap it is for what you get. Other mice around this price point usually don't have companion apps and isn't this programmable. So I'm really happy with what the VT7 MAX Gen 2 offers. So if you're looking for a gaming mouse that isn't going to break your bank account, this is a great option, especially if you're looking for something that's ultra light, wireless, and has a long battery life. This is the one you should get, all for $55. Moving forward, I'm going to keep using this as my daily driver and will be making short updates if I run into any issues down the line. So stay tuned for that. But hey, this is a good mouse for what it offers, and if you're in the need for a cool and reliable gaming mouse, this is a good option. Plus it comes with more colors. Originally I ordered the red and they didn't have it, so I got the white, which the white's nice, but I'm definitely going to put the tape on it. But yeah, if you haven't pulled the trigger yet, I would. This is a great mouse and I'm going to keep using it as my daily. So give me a like in the strive. Check out my other content if you like this style of YouTube videos. But yeah, I'll end it here. Have a good one. Peace out.